and you are just getting your, well, some of you just getting your day started. Some people might just be ending their day. That's all right. Back in the day, if you were listening to this music in the middle of the night, you were just ending your day right now. You were just getting home from the club. You were just finishing up at IHOP or wherever you were going to eat, and you are now headed back home with your friends. So welcome to the Power Hour this day. A lot happening in the news, various things that are going on that are impacting us around the country and around the world and right here in Philadelphia. Helping us keep this all together to make sure the show is on the road is the mighty Kawesa. Kawesa, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you this morning?
I'm doing all right. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
That's good. I wish that was me, but
no, it's not me either. I'm lying, but I'll just go ahead and say that. I was going to say that. How was your ride in this morning?
It was actually pretty good. Really, no traffic that I ran into today. It's actually pretty warm out. Well, I mean, I was wearing my heavier jacket and I felt kind of warm, so I'm gonna say it was, it was warmer. It wasn't a breeze, it was just comfortable. So, yeah, and there's no water or anything on the ground. So, I mean, I think that, it's pretty clear for folks, driving.
That's good. It's clear. It's helpful for them. It's actually kind of funny. I last weekend was driving. I had to go back to my house in Maryland, and the traffic was horrendous. And then when I came back on Sunday afternoon, the traffic was horrendous again. And I'm like, folk are acting like there is no coronavirus right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, y'all, please stay home. there's concern out there. But I'm glad that you made it. I'm glad it was warmer today. I'm glad you had a safe ride in, and deeply appreciate everything you do for us every day here on WURD and on our show in the morning. So, folks, let's just talk about the coronavirus for a moment while we're there. All right. So there are a lot of challenges happening right now. There are like many states where the numbers are beginning to spike. Again, they're spiking here in the city of Philadelphia. People are going out. Like I said, the traffic, I was driving the other day, traffic was like it was normal. I was actually going to places where people were not. I had to stop at my office. I had to do a couple other things. We need to remember that coronavirus is still real. There are variants that are still out there, and we need to make sure that we are social distancing, using face masks, double mask if you can. Make sure that we're continuing to practice, good hygiene practices, using hand sanitizer, washing our hands frequently, all of those things that are incredibly important at this particular moment in time. The number of cases has doubled in the city of Philadelphia in the last couple of weeks. Just a couple weeks ago, it was only a couple hundred people a day that were getting diagnosed. We're now up over 400. They're beginning to see mass hospitalizations around the country. And the interesting thing about this round is that it's more younger folk that are winding up in the hospital. People's in their 30s, 40s, 20s that are actually showing up in the hospital. And these also happen to be the folk that can't get the vaccine just yet. This coming up shortly. Across the country, people 16 and older will be able to register to get it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your location has the vaccine to still be able to get it to you. Some folks in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, are still in 1A right now. So please be careful out there. I can't say that enough, and this is incredibly important because we need to be very clear that what's happening in terms of coronavirus actually has a deep impact on our ability to actually get our economy going, getting people back to work. Every time we go through one of these spikes, it has deep impact on necessarily having to shut things back down again. We want the kids back in school. I know many of you have called in and expressed your concern about that. Folk have said that they wanted to make sure, that their businesses could open back up again. They want restaurants to open back up again. They want to be able to do activities. To be able to do that, we've got to keep the numbers down. As more people are getting vaccinated, it gets a little better, but we need to make sure until that happens, and it's not happening very quickly here in Pennsylvania, we need to be sure that you all are doing everything you can to protect yourselves, protect your family, and protect our fellow citizens here in the city of Philadelphia and beyond. So please, I'm begging you to to do the right thing and to take care of yourself and your family and cover these issues. All right. I'm going to get off that bully pulpit there for a minute about talking about COVID because there's a lot else going on. Okay. The other big issue, and we should also say we have a guest coming on today at 6:20. Jana Korn is going to be joining us from Power. She's part of the Climate Jobs and Justice team. There's a big town hall meeting tonight that congressional representatives and others will be at, and so we want to extend an invitation to you, and she'll be here to explain more. Also, we're going to take calls today, and so you can give us a call, 215-634-8065. Again, 215-634-8065. So we can get into conversation with each other and start talking about things that are happening and relevant in Philadelphia and across our country. All right, folks. So the Derek Chauvin trial in Minnesota is going on. The killing of George Floyd. A lot happening there. Yesterday's testimony was heart-wrenching. A group of young people, children, one is not young as 9, 17-year-old, that actually whose videotape we have all seen on the news, testified yesterday. Survivor's guilt is really, really hard. And at one point, the young lady breaks down and says she felt bad because there was nothing, she wanted to do more and she couldn't do more. And she was really upset about that. I can only begin to imagine the trauma that she will have, that the other children that were present there that day will have. There was a firefighter from the city that was there as well who was trying to get them to check his pulse. And they kept denying her when she kept saying, I'm a firefighter, I work for the city, this is what I do. They would not let her get near George Floyd to check his pulse while Derek Chauvin was still on his back. There was an MMA fighter that was present there that called out what Derek Chauvin was doing in that moment. In the video, you see him saying you're using a blood choke, which means you're basically stopping the blood flow from coming to the rest of his body because he was trained to do that. A lot of times you see MMA fights happening. They have him in a chokehold. Next thing you know, the MMA fighter passes out. They pass out because that is what they are trained to get their enemy to, well, not the enemy, but the person that they're wrestling with to be able to shut down. It is important that we listen and hear this testimony right now. If this jury does not convict this guy of the highest level of murder, I can't say what's going to happen in this country, because this was such a blatant act of hatred, a blatant act of racism, a blatant act of discrimination that's occurring. And we haven't even gotten to the part that George Floyd and Derek Chauvin actually once worked at the same nightclub at the same time. Chauvin was, I believe, working in the back, and George Floyd was a bouncer up front. So there could potentially be some history here that we have to take a look at. All these things are going to come play a factor. But that testimony that occurred yesterday should have been a closed and shut deal on this case. When you have citizens, when you have a 911 operator that is sitting in her cubicle looking at the monitor of what's going on in the street, and she calls the cops. The firefighter calls the police. The MMA fighter calls the police and says, y'all need to get somebody down here to stop this madness from going on. That what was really terrible was that the 911 operator said, I'm going to be accused of being a snitch because of the way that the police act like a gang. That, my friends, is troubling. When there's no difference between a criminal element and the police element, then we have a problem. When the gangs on the street operate with the same code that the police operate as, then we're really under a state of, we're under a deep state of oppression. We're under the fact that, when you have a no snitch policy, I mean, that's part of the hypocrisy of when they say that folk won't come and testify. Well, folk won't testify against the cops, or the blue line gets drawn, and then everybody says the same thing when they go into court to protect the police officer. This is not good. This is not the way our country should be. This is not the way we should be dealing with these issues right now. This is not the way that we should be contending with the challenges of policing in our country, in our state, we need these cops to be held accountable. They're no better than any single one of us. They have no more right than any single one of us. They are taught. Some of you heard me talk about the fact that I was down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, after Alton Sterling was killed. And I was talking to a gentleman down there that's a retired police officer that actually was worked in the police academy in the area. And he said, look, he was African-American man, and he, recognizing some of the things that happened, he said to me, he said, look, we train police officers when they're going through the academy that the first thing you say if you have a shooting is that regardless of whether it's true or not, that you felt like your life was threatened. And that the second thing you say is that you thought they had a weapon. And he said those two sentences oftentimes were able to get you out of trouble. You felt like your life was threatened, and you thought they had a gun. And that was enough not only to be able to deal with the court, but it was also usually enough to sway public opinion about what was happening, even though folk knew that wasn't always the case, but it was enough to sway public opinion. How often do we continue to allow these things to perpetuate themselves? I mean, God bless phone cameras. God bless phone cameras. Whatever you feel about the companies that make the phones, God bless phone cameras, because phone cameras are beginning to democratize what happens with policing in our state and in our city. It is beginning to transform what's happening because people are able to watch. And even back in the day, if that 911 operator had seen through the CCT, which is closed caption TV, closed circuit TV camera, what was happening on the street, we might not have saw it back in the day. We might not have even heard that the tape even existed, or for some reason the tape would have gone. But now you have the corroborating cameras of multiple people that are going on at the same time, showing the story and telling the story about what's happening on the street with the police officers. Now, look, you all have heard me say this as well. I am not one that believes we will ever be able to totally get rid of police. We need some form of public safety. I'm not saying it's got to be policing. We need a form of public safety. But this has got to end. This has got to stop. This has got to stop here in Philly. It's got to stop in Pennsylvania. It's got to stop in this country. There are countries that have less gun violence than we do. They have less arrests than we do. They have less killings than we do, policing, or killings by police or by other people for that matter. There's a way to stop all of this and be able to address it. And we are at a moment in time when we have to say enough is enough. Because if you can't feel safe anywhere, what does that do to your body every single day? What does it do to you when a police officer pulls up behind you while you're driving down the street? What does it do to you when you're sitting in your house and you see the police driving slowly through your block? What does it do to your children when they are on their way to school or see a police officer standing outside their school? Does that make them feel safe? Or does that disrupt them and prevent them from being able to have a good, thriving day? Instead, they're anxious about why the police are there in the first place. Because you just don't know what's going to happen to you. You don't know if that cop pulls you over, how you're going to feel, whether you're going to walk away, whether you're going to wind up in the hospital, or whether you might wind up in a body bag. Those are the challenges that we're contending with this morning. And that is absolutely unacceptable. Unacceptable. Those stories were heart-wrenching yesterday. That testimony was heart-wrenching yesterday. It was absolutely devastating to listen to those stories, especially of the little ones that were testifying in that particular moment in time. And folks, if we don't do anything to change this situation, then we are just as complicit in allowing it to happen. Let me say that again. If we don't do anything to change the situation, if we don't hold police accountable, if we don't demand our political officials do the right thing behind these police officers and holding them accountable for their actions, then we are just as complicit in allowing ourselves to live in a police state terrorized by people walking around in blue uniforms and driving in their police cars than we are of the cops themselves. We are complicit in allowing them to do that unless we're willing to speak up and say enough is enough and to be able to hold them accountable. And I don't want to hear this stuff from the police department or the police union about we can't do our jobs if we're held to this level of accountability. Why is that? When the power of life and death is in your hands, why shouldn't you be held accountable? Why shouldn't you be held accountable for what you do with your gun or with your taser or with your billy club? Why shouldn't you be held accountable for what you do with your car and how you use it while you're in while you're working? Why don't we hold you accountable for how you use your gun when you are not working? I mean, how many times have we heard about off-duty officers threatening people while they are off duty, still carrying their guns? So there's a lot of work to be done here. Policing's got to be changed and transformed. Public safety's got to be changed and transformed. And we've got to do better for this, for the citizens of Philadelphia, for all of our country, for all of African-American folk around this country and around the world that are continually facing the challenges of being brutalized by a force that looks at us as less than human. Absolutely less than human. Who wants to live in a country like that? Who wants to live in a world like that? So we need to demand better. We have a right to be able to do that. One of the ways that we're going to have to do that is use our money to be able to make that change. Use our dollars to be able to make that change. Just yesterday, we had 2 days ago, we had Bishop Reginald Jackson on from Atlanta, the AME Bishop of the Atlanta area, and yesterday it was announced that they are boycotting Coca-Cola because Coca-Cola has deep pockets into the politicians in the state of Georgia. And so they're saying, look, black folk will not buy Coca-Cola anymore until you all get these politicians to do the right thing. That's part of the way we're going to have to do this. There are folk that are out there supporting the FOP, supporting the city, and they are continuing to perpetuate a police state here in Philadelphia and beyond. Maybe it's time we start saying to them, we're not going to spend our dollars with you until you do right by the people that are spending dollars in your stores. All right, we are up on our first break. This is Dwayne Royster. You're listening to the Power Hour. We'll be right back with Jana Corn from Power.
Hey WURD family, have you heard of the new Go to Know campaign? If not, here is the deal. WURD Radio has partnered with the Colorectal Cancer Alliance, Penn Medicine, LabCorp, and the Independence Blue Cross Foundation to present the Go to Know Fit Kit Screening Campaign. The Go to Know campaign is an at-home screening test for colon cancer. Yup, you heard me right. You can take your own stool sample and mail it back for testing. Did you know colon cancer, if caught early, is 100% preventable? African Americans are 20% more likely to get colon cancer and about 40% more likely to die from it than most other groups. Plus, it is recommended you get screened if you are 45 years of age or older. So for the next 6 months, you can go to wordradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner for your free at-home screening test. It's that simple. Again, just go to wordradio.com, click on the Go to Know banner, and request your free at-home screening test. That's it. Go to Know today.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
You probably heard it before, but one of the best ways to stay safe from COVID is by avoiding crowds. That's better. Also, when you're out in public, make sure you stay 6 feet away from strangers or people you don't live with. It's okay to say, "Can I have some space, please?"
Well, it's going to be a beautiful sunny day today, and we can expect much.
If you're gonna have a get-together with friends and family, have it outside. And remember to keep those 6 feet of social distance. And last but not least, wear a mask that covers your nose and mouth with no gaps. They slow the spread of COVID or new forms of the virus called variants. And make sure you get your vaccine when it's your turn. We're all out here trying our best, and it's making a difference. We just gotta keep it up. We can do this.
To learn more about slowing the spread, visit cdc.gov/coronavirus. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Mike, how's your day going?
I'm having a great day. I just bought property on bidforassets.com.
What's Bid for Assets?
It's the new way of buying property from the sheriff's sale.
I've been meaning to buy some real estate. How can I get involved?
Register for free to make a deposit and to participate in the upcoming auction on April 6, 2021 at bidforassets.com. They have sold more than 125,000 properties with a simple and easy process. Now it's your chance to buy property. Visit bidforassets.com.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster, usually along with Mark Tyler, but he is out today. But we're here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news, happenings around Philadelphia, and, of course, our opinions. And we have plenty of those. We have plenty of opinions to share with you each and every week. All right. We're now joined by Jana Corn, who is an organizer with Power, the Climate, Jobs, and Justice team, who will be sharing with us today, talking about a town hall meeting that's occurring this evening, tonight, and talking about an agenda around climate justice. Jana, how are you this morning? Welcome to the Power Hour.
I'm okay, Bishop. Good morning. How are you?
Good, good. I know this is early in the morning for you, so I really appreciate you getting up and being here with us so early. So, Jana, tell us a little bit about Climate, Jobs, and Justice, what you all are doing, and what is this Thrive agenda that you all are talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the way that our team really looks at climate justice is fighting for racial and economic justice on a livable planet. And we know that as the climate gets warmer, as the climate crisis is happening, all of the inequalities that we already are experiencing in our society, systemic racism, deepening economic inequality, are only going to get worse unless we do something about it. And that's really what the Thrive agenda is about. It's about sort of pushing both President Biden and Congress on a national level and all of our state legislatures to respond to all these intersecting challenges in the most bold way possible, and really create millions of new good jobs in the process. And the Thrive Act specifically, it was introduced in Congress actually this week. And the idea is that it's an economic recovery package, right, to respond to the pandemic, to mass unemployment, to systemic racism, and to respond to all of those issues in a way that also helps to reduce carbon in our environment. So it invests up to the tune of close to $1 trillion a year, I think. Don't quote me on that. And by investing in sort of low carbon work, care work, green energy, it could create up to 15 million new good jobs, which is a pretty amazing number.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, tonight there's this town hall, and what time does that begin?
Yeah, so it's from 6 to 8 tonight.
6 to 8. So I know that there are going to be, a series of guests that are going to be joining with you tonight, some political guests. Who's joining on this evening?
Yeah, so the main portion of the event is our members and other folks in the community really talking about what the Thrive Act could mean for us and for our people. But then Congressman Dwight Evans from Philadelphia, who's one of the 3 Pennsylvania congressmen who have actually endorsed this agenda, is going to come and sort of explain why he's all in for the Thrive Act and help us sort of make a plan for how we're going to make this happen.
Great. Now, you Power's not the only one working on this, right? Climate, Jobs, and Justice is not the only one. Who are the other orgs that are at the table that are helping to pull this town hall together?
Yeah, I think that's what's really cool about this event. It's a huge coalition of unions, the electrical workers, SEIU, immigrant rights groups, Make the Road, CASA, other environmental groups, other statewide grassroots groups like our partners at PA Stands Up and PA United. So it's folks that come from all over the state and are working on a variety of different issues. We're sort of representing the faith leaders and the faith perspective, but all are coming together to say this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Let's make it happen.
That's awesome. And tell me, like, how did you get into this work? What got you into this?
Yeah, I mean, I really got into climate work through thinking about care work and how we can really support our caregivers in society, and sort of seeing this disconnect between we're paying home care workers and child care workers so little, but that's really like the job in our society that puts the least carbon. It doesn't put any carbon into our atmosphere, right? And if we could have more people go into care work and have those jobs be good union jobs that really are enough to live on, then that could be a huge way to solve this climate crisis and also really invest in communities that have been really like disinvested in and disenfranchised. So I really saw that disconnect, and I'm really excited to sort of figure out how we can put all those pieces together, right? Like invest in care work, make new good union jobs, invest in those sort of environmental justice communities, and take that carbon out of the atmosphere.
Gotcha. Now, with the legislation that's been introduced in the House of Representatives so far, I mean, I know it's going to be a bit of a challenge to try to get through the Senate, as all things are right now.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the agenda. Like, what do you find that would have the most in the legislation? What would have the most impact for folk here in the Philly area?
Mm-hmm. So the bill, like I said, is a lot of money over 10 years, and it stipulates that around 50% of the money goes directly to what they're calling environmental justice communities. So those communities that have been most deeply impacted by the fossil fuel industry, by pollution. And we know in Philadelphia, we have a lot of those, right? So those communities that are around the refinery in Nicetown, around the septic gas plant, those are the communities that really stand to benefit from this kind of investment coming from the federal government, and helping us in Philly really like transition our entire economy, and also in that process address sort of those issues of systemic racism that we have been fighting for way too long.
Yeah. You know, it's actually one of the interesting things about Philadelphia. I don't understand why we have not adopted a policy yet, at least at the city level, to be 100% renewable energy by like 2030 or 2050. You know, that would make a lot of sense to me if we would do something like that. That would actually create new jobs, it create new opportunities here in the city of Philadelphia, and hopefully, if the Thrive legislation passes, we can really begin to think about that here for the city.
Yeah, absolutely. And at our in the climate justice and jobs team, we're doing a lot of work to think about how can PICO and PGW really be leaders in that process of transitioning to renewable energy. We have a lot of work to do there. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've had this idea for a very long time that I wanted everybody in Philly that has homes in Philadelphia to be able to put solar on their roofs, whether they're in a row home or a town home or a duplex or whatever, to be able to put solar on their roofs and be able to create a solar energy company in Philadelphia that's owned by the citizens of Philadelphia. Like literally they have shares because they have the solar energy on their roof, and that they would actually be able to not only be safe in terms of their own energy needs, because we know that a lot of people get cut off by PICO and PGW and other places during the year if they're unable to make their bills, but that any extra energy that they created, they were able to sell back and actually make money, and the corporation could make money, and all the residents that have the solar on their roofs would be able to do this together. It's one of the ways I think we can democratize energy, get to a level of renewables in the city, and in particular get to those communities that most often are not able to access like renewables right now. Although the price is coming down, originally renewables were extremely expensive, and so you know, I think we have to have the creative imagination like that says this is a possibility. What do we need to do to be able to make that happen?
No doubt. Yeah, I think sort of those energy co-ops are could be pretty transformative for communities, right? And putting the control back into into communities' pockets and figuring out how do we make these decisions to make sure all of us have the energy we need to live and thrive. And I think that's what's kind of special and unique about this moment is that we've never been here before. We have so many hard challenges, and we just have this opportunity to be really creative, to say, like, we're going to invest a lot of money. What are the ways that we can do this to really have the biggest impact and totally transform the way our economy and the way our society work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I think we need to also recognize, too, like you talked about, the Thrive agenda, the Thrive bills could actually generate 15 million jobs across the country. And there are a lot of folk, even coming out of COVID, that are going to struggle to get back economically. If we were actually able to embrace this now, we could begin to ramp this up so that at least by 2022, we're beginning to see some impact on this, and people are actually able to imagine moving into a new industry. And I mean, renewables are going to be here for a long time. They're not going anywhere. And the beauty of renewables is that they're renewable energy. So being able to put together solar infrastructure or wind infrastructure, or being able to use geothermal infrastructure, maintenance of those, that equipment, and trying to make sure things go. People have to work those jobs, and we need to make sure they're good union jobs, paying good benefits, good salaries, family-sustaining wages is what we really want to talk about. It's not even just about the 15 anymore. We need way more than 15 to be able to survive. I think all that's absolutely critical for us to be able to move forward and create a sustainable and a thriving, healthy environment. Let's reduce asthma in the city. Let's reduce some smog. Let's get folk driving electric cars, although I don't have one yet, but I'm going to be getting one sometime in the future when they make one that's big enough for a guy that's 6'4" in my size. People have said, how come you don't have an electric car? And I'm like, have you seen me? And have you seen an electric car? I'm just curious. I just, but, hopefully we're going to be able to get to that place and be able to, save our community from a lot of struggle and a lot of pain as well. So, Jana, how can folk get connected tonight? How do they sign up and register to be a part of this town hall?
Yeah, I think the best thing that folks could do would be to go to the Power calendar online. So it's powerinterfaith.org/calendar. And the event is called the Thriving PA Virtual Town Hall. You can sign up and get involved, and would really love to see everyone there. I think it's going to be a really powerful, educational, and pretty transformational event.
And let me just ask you, if people want to get engaged with Power around the climate, jobs, and justice, what do they need to do? How do they reach out to you? What do they need to do?
Yeah, if you're listening and you want to get involved in the climate, justice, and jobs team with Power, feel free to go online and check out the Climate Justice website, or you can get in touch with me directly. My email address is J, and then my last name, Korn, Korn, at powerinterfaith.org.
Jana, really appreciate you being here with us and sharing this information this morning, and look forward to being in that town hall on tonight.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing you tonight, and take care, Bishop.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jana. Folks, one of the things that's actually really interesting about climate is that oftentimes in the African-American community or environmental justice, we don't talk about them as much and as frequently as we do talk about other issues. But the issues around climate and environment are killing us just as badly as many of the other issues that we are contending with on a daily basis. And we really need to kind of own that space. It's often been owned, if I could just say, by white folk, who are doing well, and this this is a concern that we need to address. But when we actually take a look at the impacts of climate and the impacts of environmental issues, they actually disproportionately impact Black and brown communities more so than any white community. As a matter of fact, studies have shown that the countries that we will lose as a result of climate change are all Black and brown. There's not one white country that's going to get lost as a result of this. They might lose some cities, but they're not going to lose it. But they're literally countries of brown folk and Black folk in outside of Africa and outside of South America that will eventually be lost. Some potential Asian nations as well that will be lost as a result of climate change, rising water levels, we need to be deeply concerned about this. If you know somebody that's got asthma, we should be concerned about environmental justice here in the city of Philadelphia. If you know folk that are, own shore property or, on some of the communities down in North and South Carolina where they're out on the Outer Banks, they're going to lose land. They're going to lose, the water's going to take back that land. They're going to lose that land. All that stuff is happening right now. And so we need to be very diligent about addressing this issue around climate as well. It's an issue that I care deeply about and deeply concerned about. I'm also concerned about my comfort. That's why I don't have an electric car yet. When they make one, and also when they have one that's affordable. So affordable, and it fits my 6'4" frame. That will be probably my next car. So I just think this is really important that we're actually having these conversations, that we're doing this work, that we're engaging in climate. I'm really excited about the Echo Word movement here at WURD Radio about bringing this issue to the surface. Quiet as it's kept, when I get my house back in the area, I'm going to make sure I put a little garden in. So I'm doing some gardening as well and trying to reduce carbon by not having to drive to the store to get some food. I'll be able to just go out in the backyard and pick it. So we're going to be able to do that. All right, folks. So we are getting ready to get up on our next break. But for the next 20 minutes, the phone lines are open. 215-634-8065. Again, 215-634-8065. I look forward to being in conversation with you. Give us a call here on the Power Hour. You're listening to the Power Hour with Dwayne Royster. We'll be right back.
Okay, Her's new fire potato chips and cheese curls, they are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet. Hold on. Whew. But it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Her's Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Her's.
If you understand the value of doing business with a company that values its clients, remember this name, Heat and Air Guys. At Heat and Air Guys, we give our clients extra value by offering lots of ways to make their lives easier. Like financing for your installation. You get 18 months, no interest, no payments, 10-year parts and labor warranties, service on all makes and models, seasonal tune-ups, all offered by skilled, reliable technicians who value the opportunity to be of service to you. Call Heat and Air Guys at 610-583-3207.
Clark Roofing Company has over 30 years of quality roofing experience, providing exceptional customer service, honesty, and professionalism. Clark Roofing is a second-generation master roofer, installing top-quality roofing systems for commercial and residential properties across the tri-state area. For fast, dependable service, call 215-365-ROOF. That's 215-365-7663.
WURD Radio celebrates Women's History Month with the 2021 Level Up Contest. This year, we're highlighting Black women-owned businesses who are making a difference in their communities. A big thanks to all of our nominees for joining us on this journey. We had an overwhelming response with almost 100 nominations. Tune in to Save Space with Sincerely Sarita on March 31st at 7 p.m. for a live on-air Level Up pitch party where the 10 Philly finalists will compete to win a marketing package valued at over $5,000. Level Up is a joint production of WURD Radio in Philadelphia, WVON in Chicago, and KJLH in Los Angeles. 3 Black-owned radio stations who are joining forces to spotlight Black women-owned businesses in Philly, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Don't forget, join us March 31st at 7 p.m. for the 2021 Level Up Pitch Party, hosted by Sincerely Sarita, where local Black women entrepreneurs will pitch their businesses to a panel of judges. Visit wordradio.com and click on the Level Up banner for more information. The 2021 Level Up contest is sponsored by Comcast, Bank of America, Pico, Keystone First, and Thomas Jefferson University and Jefferson Health. Now, a traffic update
on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by Dairy Queen. Delays 295 northbound getting busy, 47 into 42. Right lane blocked, ongoing emergency construction. 55 northbound busy, Deptford now into 42. Southbound 95, Cobham through Bridge, heavy through construction. Again, delays Betsy Ross through Girard. Delays Vine Expressway, westbound Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. Schuylkill itself both ways not bad as of yet. The Boulevard Route 1 southbound is volleying their building broad down to Fox again through construction. Hey, DQ fans, the DQ Chicken and Biscuits basket is ready to celebrate your mini wins with mini biscuits. Not to mention the 100% all white meat chicken strips. Let's celebrate only at your DQ. Happy tastes good. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a word weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Clouds increasing this morning. Rain arrives this afternoon and continues tonight, but it will be mild through the day. 50s this morning, warms into the mid-60s by lunchtime and a high of 68 this afternoon. A rainy ride home and the rain continues tonight and into tomorrow morning, and it's going to be chilly, down to 44 in the morning with gusty winds right on through the day, including in the afternoon for the Phillies home opener. A high of 47 will feel like it's in the 30s. Dipping down into the 20s Friday morning, dry and mainly clear. 29 the low, a high of 44 with partly sunny skies Friday afternoon. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster, normally along with Mark Kelly Tyler, but he is out today. Hey, WURD family, WURD Radio celebrates Women's History Month with the 2021 Level Up Contest. This year, we're highlighting black women-owned businesses who are making a difference in their communities. A big thanks to all of our nominees for joining us on this journey. We had an overwhelming response with almost 100 nominations. Tune in today to Save Space, hosted by Sincerely Sarita, on Wednesday, March 31st, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. for a live, on-air Level Up pitch party where Philly finalists will compete to win a marketing package valued at over $5,000. The 2021 Level Up contest is sponsored by Comcast, Bank of America, PECO, Keystone First, Thomas Jefferson University, and Jefferson Health. So that's tonight from 7 to 9. Check that out. Listen to these great black women-owned businesses who are having impact here in Philadelphia, and cheer them on as they make their pitches to receive a $5,000 marketing package that could really help their businesses grow and thrive in Philadelphia. We need to make sure that our businesses here in the city are doing well and growing, and so we want to be able to connect with that. Just a reminder, the phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, 215-634-8065. All right, so a lot of issues happening, a lot of conversation happening right now in the city of Philadelphia with regard to gun violence. There have been initiatives that folk have engaged in. We've done gun buyback programs. We have done a series of conversations about the shootings that are occurring here in Philadelphia. You know, I go back to something Commissioner Charles Ramsey, former police commissioner Charles Ramsey, said about violence and about activity, criminal, what they deem to be criminal activity here in the city of Philadelphia, is that the best way to prevent crime from happening, prevent shootings from happening, is to make sure the person has a good paying job with benefits. That's what Charles Ramsey said. And I think that there's a lot of validity to that. I think part of what we're seeing with the gun spike right now, and again, this is not just happening here in Philadelphia, it's happening around the country in almost all of our major cities. Folk are contained. They are struggling financially. There's a lot of anxiety that's manifested in the community right now, and people are struggling, and they just trying to make it from one moment to the next. And so we have this issue about gun violence that's going on in the city. The police are ramping up their arrest, but they're complaining that the DA is not doing enough to, get folk off the street that are doing the gun violence. We have issues just yesterday. Well, we heard the story that about a man was killed while working on a video about Philadelphia gun violence. You know, we're struggling with this issue right now. There was somebody that was there was a fatal shooting at the Philadelphia Mills Mall food court. You know, in my opinion, there are a couple things that could really happen to address the issue of gun violence. One, Philadelphia would be bold enough to sue the state and would say that we should be able to have the ability to control guns in the city of Philadelphia, the sale and the possession of guns in the city of Philadelphia. That's start, right? That's start number one. Number two, you know, the other piece of it is that we need to help people get out of poverty. If we would really engage in a full-throated plan that would really work to address poverty here in the city of Philadelphia, and it's not just about you know, doing job training programs, because everybody's like, oh, people need job training, job training. Well, it's not just job training. They actually need good paying jobs. So we need folk to get job training. We need skills. You know, people have often talked about the illiteracy level here in the city of Philadelphia. We need to address the illiteracy level. We need to make sure people have job skills and got job trainings. But we need to make sure that there are jobs there for them to go to. But the other piece of it is that if we're not willing to be bold enough to sue the state to also raise the minimum wage so we can get a living wage in the city of Philadelphia, then city of Philadelphia needs to consider going to a basic income model, you know, that would basically give money to folk every single month so they had income coming in to be able to sustain them over and above anything that they're earning, so that they would be able to take care of daycare expenses, or pay their rent or the mortgage, or pay for a car note they need to get back and forth to school, take care of the utilities they had, or put food on the table. I think all those are issues that are going to be absolutely critical moving forward. This recovery coming out of COVID is actually going to take a lot of work and a lot of resources for us to be able to do that, to get folk back into the workforce, to ramp the economy back up again. And it just makes sense to me that we need to be able to find ways to put money into people's pockets. The more money you put into their pockets, the more money they're going to spend. That's going to churn the economy. That's how it kind of works. You spend money, you buy products, you create demand for the products get sold, it creates jobs for the creation and manufacture and then sale of those products. And so we need to get money into people's hands. Now, when folk have money, it feels different than when they don't have resources. When you have resources, you have something to look forward to, you have something that you're trying to protect, something you're trying to keep together. That actually is very important for folk to be able to do that, to be able to feel content. If you feel content, if you feel safe, you're probably less inclined to do, you know, to rob somebody or to shoot somebody or to, you know, steal a car, because you're actually able to afford your own and you don't want anybody stealing your car. Those are the things that become very important for us in this particular moment. And it will take creativity, imagination, and courage on the part of our political leaders and others to be able to do this kind of work, to be able to do this guaranteed basic income. That is what it's going to take to be able to turn Philadelphia around. I don't know why our city, which is actually one of the oldest in the country, always has to be on the tail end of everything, and that we can't use some creativity and imagination to think about what the possibilities are to be able to create the change that we need to see in our communities. Our political leaders are not coming up with deep imagination or having deep possibilities about whatever, and maybe they feel overwhelmed in their jobs. Okay, so be it. So then we've got to tell them what it is that we want and the imagination that we want to be able to create opportunity. There's been conversation about creating a public bank in Philadelphia, and actually Councilman Derek Green put forth legislation to be able to initiate that. It would save the city of Philadelphia millions of dollars every year in fees that we're paying to commercial banks to be able to manage the city's money, that if we had our own public bank that's owned by the city, we could take the dollars from that that we're saving from fees and other places and reinvest it in the city, whether it's the infrastructure or whether it could be in a basic income or whatever we're doing. A bank that's owned basically by the citizens of Philadelphia for the purposes of benefiting the city of Philadelphia. Could you imagine more community reinvestment dollars? You can imagine there were more dollars that would be out there for small businesses that wanted to get started, that there would be more opportunity for folk to be able to access. And it wouldn't just be for Philadelphia City, like the city itself, to be able to use it, but citizens would be able to use it as well. It would be a way that we would be generating and using our own income to make income. And so we are in a moment in time when we need to be imaginative and creative. If we want to end gun violence, then what we need to promote is economic stability. And that's not just economic stability for the richest or the upper middle class or even the solidly middle class. We need economic stability for those that are considered the underclass, those that are struggling, those that are in poverty. What's the pathway for them to be able to get to a place of thriving? If you are in need, you will do whatever you need to be able to survive, whether that is considered legal or illegal, to be able to do that. Well, if we know that already, then why aren't we doing things to be able to help make sure that people are able to be sustained? Let's take $300 million. Let's take $500 million. Hell, let's take what we spend on the police budget and reinvest that money into citizens so that they are actually able to live their full best lives. Let's do like what the city did in Illinois, that just did reparations so that people could get housing or repair their houses that have African Americans that have lived through the housing discrimination policies of that city. Let's do that same thing here. All it takes is some courage and some imagination and some willingness to be out there a little bit and even be criticized for it. But you know what? Things don't change until people are willing to do differently, until they're willing to step up in a really big way to be able to show new ways. So I want to make sure. I see our sheriff is saying she doesn't want the public bank. It doesn't necessarily going to be run by the city. They got to hire people to actually do banking to do that. But I want to make sure that we are investing in our people and creating a way for it. We need creativity. We need imagination. We need new possibilities. All right, everybody. That's all I got for today. I appreciate you hanging out here with us on the Power Hour. Thank you, Kuesa, for holding the boards down and doing everything you do. Thank you, Jana Korn from Power Climate Jobs and Justice Team, for joining us this morning and filling us in on the Thrive Town Hall meeting that will take place tonight from 6 to 8 p.m. Thank you, everybody that listened to us on the air, that listened to us through the app, that listened to us to YouTube or Facebook or whatever means you listen to us. We deeply appreciate you. Stay tuned now for Wake Up with Word with Solomon Jones. And remember, go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.